And there is something so special about seeing the moon and connecting with people all over the world, because we're all looking at the same moon. Just feels very special to me to be able to connect virtually and online, but also in something so powerful as nature. So that was a little anecdote of where we're coming in from. I'm in Cape Town and Annie is joining us from Joburg. And if you can post in the chat where you're joining us from, I'd love to see who is listening in. This is a space for us to connect around all things AS. And I'm really looking forward to diving into Annie's journey with AS, as well as her professional experience as she's a counselor. She has some really interesting tools and useful tools that we can all discover and put in place in our lives when we have those difficult days. And I know that that's definitely something that comes to mind as you're dealing with something like AS. Just to introduce myself, if you don't know me, I am Lauren Kim Angelo. I am one of the directors of the Axial Spondyloarthritis Association of South Africa. I am Miranda's right-hand woman, and I'm so glad that we're here all together. I'm a physiotherapist and health coach, and my husband was diagnosed with AS 5 years ago. So it's a bit of a personal story for me too. And also I have a healthcare professional hat on sometimes, but this is a space for you all. Part of our community with AS, this is a space for you to unpack all of those challenges that you might be going through, or celebrate some of those wins. We are here to chat to you, and this is a space for you. We're just as a caveat, we're not offering any medical advice. Annie is going to speak from her personal experience. This is a time for you to pick up on insights that maybe or may not be helpful for you. We all believe that we're on our own journey. So what might work for Annie, what might work for me, doesn't necessarily, might not, or it might work for you. And that's up to you. That's your discretion. But I'm just so glad that we have the space here together to all share about our day-to-day around AS. And I'm going to introduce Annie to our audience today. Annie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a mom, a grandmother, a scuba instructor, love 4x4ing, also counsel, fun-loving, 60-year-old. I turned 60 this year. So yeah. My children tell me I'm old. I don't think I'm old. I've been living with AS a very long time. I also have polyglandular autoimmune type 2, which complicates things a little bit. But I'm really excited to share my journey with you.
Yeah, wow. Thank you so much for that brief introduction. It sounds like you've done so much with your life already, and I'm so looking forward to hearing part of that wisdom that comes with turning 60 and experiencing AS over these last, how many years did you say? 30?
Over 30 years.
Over 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about your journey with AS, Annie.
I think like most people, you sort of become accustomed to pain and become accustomed to fatigue. And I grew up in a family where the motto was no blood, not sore. So, and we're a very Scottish family, so you just sucked it up. I didn't know any different, which perhaps is a good thing, because the expectation was that I would get on with the job. It was only really after I had my two girls that the AS became really obvious. I battled with finding a rheumatologist to the point where I just really didn't want to go to another doctor who was going to tell me that I was not sick enough. I have a twin sister, an identical twin, who's also got AS, and she eventually dragged me to Cape Town to see her rheumatologist. And yeah, she just said, unfortunately, it had been left a little bit late. So my ribs, for instance, are completely fused, which is a problem when you scuba dive at depth. But yes, I think probably similar to most AS warrior journeys, finding the right doctors, finding the support that's needed, understanding the disease, owning the disease, making it something that you can choose to be positive about. So yeah.
Yeah, you're really bringing in that sense of choice that you have, and speaking to yourself in those kind words. I also just want to touch on the fact that, and we spoke about this a little bit earlier, that often the AS journeys are very similar for people in this group. It was a long time coming. There was possibly a delay in diagnosis. They finally got to someone that that could diagnose you, and then you were on a particular path. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's helpful for people to hear that too.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was a relief to know that I wasn't a hypochondriac, because I didn't understand why I was in constant pain, why my feet were always burning, why I was constantly getting migraines, why, my back would spasm and I would battle to get up in the morning. I didn't understand that. And because I hadn't been diagnosed, I couldn't own it, but I also couldn't understand it because it didn't have a name. Whereas when you understood from a medical point of view, it's almost like a relief, because, okay, so I'm not a hypochondriac. This is something real, and now we can deal with it. For me, that was, a very, very positive. I know it sounds weird to be diagnosed with such a yucky disease as AS, but I had it anyway. But just, being diagnosed helped me to deal with it.
Yeah, it sounds like you were able to put some certainty in place, or at least a huge sense of understanding amongst a lot of uncertainty and confusion around where all of these experiences were coming from, the pain, and being able to have something to then channel your energy into, and feeling understood finally was a big step for you.
Yes, you're right, Lauren. It for me, it was a big step. So being able to acknowledge that it was real and that it wasn't my imagination meant that I could, in a sense, accept the reality of it. It wasn't just my imagination. The pain wasn't my imagination. I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. So I was able to accept the disease and begin to actually work with the doc within the disease, because there's you can't really, no, you can't divorce yourself from the reality of the disease. This is what it is. And for me, it was almost like the start of a journey where all of the previous stuff was interesting, but it was only when I was diagnosed that I started to understand AS. And I'm still learning, oh, that's a symptom of AS. Oh, okay, I've had it forever. Just realizing those things has allowed me to focus the journey in a positive, and I'm not saying I'm positive every day because that would be a lie, but focus the journey in the way that I want to focus it. Being older means that I don't have time to waste. I've got to pack in all this stuff because I'm determined to pack it all in so that not a day is wasted. No.
Yeah, I think you're bringing in this concept that life is fleeting and you want to do all of the things that you love to do, and being able to manage your AS is just part of that way, or that springboard to doing all of the things that you love.
Yes, for instance, with scuba, I do a lot of instructor development training, which means that we, for instance, are in the pool for hours on end, not shorter periods where we, for open water students. And my back would actually sort of spasm into place. So my the colleagues that I was working with realized that I wasn't able to, even though I used the steps, I wasn't able to use the steps because my spine was it wasn't fused, but that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And so we would laugh about the fact that I'd have to get out of the water and then walk up and down the pool to get my body, back into, but in a way that's freeing because you're working within your capabilities, and it's not the end of the world. You just got to, adjust.
Yeah, it reminds me of resilience and being able to see things, know what is and what isn't in your control, and looking at things quite realistically within AS.
Yes, yeah. And for me, that was quite freeing to be able to be real.
Mm-hmm.
So some days when you're really battling, and all of us have those flare days or flare weeks or sometimes even flare months, where you're not going to achieve what you'd like to achieve or that you've planned to achieve. You have to change but at the end of the day, I can still own that. And within that negative pain experience, you can actually, what I do is I channel it into a place where I can be positive.
Okay.
Even within the pain. So maybe I can't go scuba diving, maybe I can't go swimming, but I could maybe walk, or I could craft, or I can read, or I can be involved in some kind of helping for others, so that it's not wasted time. It doesn't need to be wasted time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So finding ways to do things that are that are accessible to you, and making sure that you're doing things that are meaningful.
Yes, yes. Within your day, because some days you can be productive, and I put that in inverted commas because I'm not sure what productive actually is. But some days you feel productive, and some days you feel you're just sucking oxygen. But it's focusing on what can make, within your abilities, what can make that day. Maybe productive is not the right word. Maybe it's more valuable or of value.
And maybe it's also something around feeling satisfied with your day, having the sense of I've accomplished something, even if it might be very small, but it's having that sense of this, I've ticked something off of the box that I wanted to do today. And so you've mentioned a highlight of, or it seemed like a highlight of one of your AS journey was actually getting diagnosed, having that clarity and certainty. What other highlights, so peaks of the journey, and troughs, so the really difficult times of your journey? Can you unpack both of those two things from your experience?
Yeah, so from my experience, moving on to a biologic was a real high, because my pain began to lessen as time went on. So that was obviously a real high. I'm just trying to think, life to me is a high. At the end of the day, every day is precious. And whether I'm, flat on my back, or whether I'm, running around at scuba. I do a lot of scubaing, as you've discovered.
You've only mentioned it about 6 times.
About 6 times, yes. So yeah. So those are the highs. I think it's almost like small achievements. That I know I've just had a neck op, which has helped with the my arms. I lost power in my arms. And just, for instance, standing on one leg or holding a coffee cup and knowing that I'm not going to drop it, that's a high. Having a full day, that's a high. Being able to help and support, even, we were down at St. Francis Bay and we did an 8-kilometer hike. For me, we used to do 3-week hikes in the Drakensberg, but that's not possible anymore. So an 8-kilometer hike for me is a high. And then the lows, I think being misunderstood is probably one of my biggest lows, because it's an invisible disease in the sense that you can't see, the bones fusing. And most of us put on a brave front because we don't want to burden other people. So I think being misunderstood is a big low. And then those days when the pain is just not in control, where, even with taking medication, it's not in control. Those are lows. And some days I really get depressed because, if you have a flare for a period of time, eventually you're exhausted from trying to be brave. So those are also lows.
Yeah,
I think,
and thank you for sharing those all with us. I think it's so helpful to see both the positives and the challenges that come with AS, and I see this huge sense of courage that comes up when you're experiencing AS, of having to deal with either feeling of not being understood by others, or having to deal with excruciating pain or pain that isn't managed, that having to confront that takes a lot of courage.
I think all AS warriors are courageous. Sometimes we sort of fall off the wagon a little bit, and that's why this group is so important, because when you're not strong, then somebody else can be strong for you. I know I've received a huge amount of support from this organization, and when you're low, you need to be supported by somebody who actually understands.
Yeah, that sense of compassion and understanding is really important to give you that support to take the next step that you need, or just to feel like this is manageable again because you have people alongside you. And
it is going to pass. The flare will stop. For me, maybe because I'm older, I'm very aware of we're very aware of time. And I don't have time. I'm not 20 anymore. So I, in a sense, want to make sure that every day is valuable. And that doesn't mean that I achieve great things every day, but every day should be valuable. It should be something that this evening I spent time with my grandchildren roasting marshmallows, and that's making your day valuable.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I see we have someone in the chat who has said that she also feels that being misunderstood is a big low. And I wonder if you had any advice to people who experience that. What might you say that would help them to deal with that fact of feeling misunderstood?
I think that's a good question, and probably each one of us will handle it differently, but I'm discovering that most people won't understand. And perhaps I've been too judgmental about expecting people to understand. Even medical people who are not in the rheumatology field have misunderstood, but so I think for me, realizing that some people are not going to understand, and actually that's okay. I'm not responsible for other people, their thoughts and their actions. One of the things that I really try and do is to be mindful of the moment, so that when I feel misunderstood, I can do something positive within this moment. So it's really taking control of the feeling of being misunderstood, rather than allowing the other person to influence the way I feel. Because at the end of the day, I have AS, and that's a reality. Whether people don't see it or whether they do see it, it actually really is irrelevant. So, and also being honest. I'm an associate at a scuba club. The youngsters all know that when I lecture, I have to have a chair. They don't understand why. I think they think I'm old. As far as I'm concerned, I am not old. I need a chair because I can't stand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay that they don't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it's learning to differentiate between what I can control and what I can't control. And I can't control being misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
But I can control how I react to that, or what I do in the moment that helps me. Because at the end of the day, most people don't understand 24/7 pain, which is understandable.
Yes.
You know, some people will say they've got a headache. You know, take a Panado. The AS warriors, you know, we're a little bit more complicated than that. So it's okay.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I think it's really useful to be able to unpack it in a way of what is in my control and what is out of my control. What other people think and do is out of my control. And I think there might even be something in here around picking those opinions that actually matter to you. So maybe it's your rheumatologist, or it's your husband, who it's really important for you to be on the same page with. But other people, maybe it's not that important that they have opinions and that are way out there. It's everyone will have an opinion. Often it will be not aligned with ours, and then just brushing it off, or taking it with a pinch of salt.
And I'm learning that I don't need to be disappointed that somebody doesn't understand me.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't understand my struggles, because it's not my burden to carry. I try as best as I can to explain where I'm at, and that's it. At the end of the day, that's all I can do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And tell me, what else has been really helpful for you on your journey?
My twin has been very helpful because she also has AS, so we phone each other. She's in Cape Town, I'm here in Joburg, and we can actually say we really are I'm really in pain, and she'll go, yep, I completely get it. So for me, being understood from somebody who actually suffers with the same disease, and if you don't have that kind of support, to find that support here, there are people probably all over South Africa who, if you wanted to, you could link up with. But it's important to be understood. I'm very fortunate, I have a wonderful husband, and I have kids who really do understand. Even my grandkids understand in their ability to understand. But if you're not fortunate to have that support, to find a support structure, whether it be a support group or a church or a club, or to find a place where you know that you're valued for who you are rather than for your disease. So I'm not an AS person. I'm an individual who happens to have AS. So to have value. And then also I find helping others really helps me. So although I'm helping others, I'm actually helping myself. So I find tremendous value in that. And sometimes stepping out of my pain comfort zone, where, yes, you don't want to go walking, or yes, you don't want to exercise, or yes, you don't want to go to work, but you just got to put your big girl panties on and get on with it. Sometimes that is helpful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really see that element of of meeting yourself where you're at. So sometimes you know, okay, I need to just get up and get on with this day. A distraction might be really helpful for me right now. And also I really like what you said around doing things for others. And I think there's recently been some really good research around acts of kindness and how it's so rewarding for us to do that. So it seems like you've already had quite a lot of experience in that. And I wonder, what have you noticed around doing things for others? How does that improve your life?
Most importantly, it takes me off my focus of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you're in pain. Yes, you might be struggling to do something, but if you're putting up swings at a local school that has got nothing, or if you are reading with kids who are battling to read, or if you know, simple things like at Easter time, I take my grandchildren to give Easter eggs to those who don't have the opportunity to have Easter eggs. So it's in a way choosing to have value in not focusing on myself. I don't know, it doesn't make that much sense, but it's, although you're supposedly helping others, I'm actually helping myself more. And realizing that most people are struggling with something, and for them it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And if you come alongside that person in where they are at, it makes you feel more valuable because you're not focusing on your issues.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, lending a helping hand to someone brings about the sense of meaning and purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think just as humans, we're hardwired to have the sense of meaning and purpose.
Absolutely. I think for me, because I'm semi-retired, so I don't have a full-time job, having purpose in every day is very important. Knowing that I need to get up because there is a purpose for this day, even if that purpose in the grand scheme of the world is not going to change most people's life, there should be a purpose. And if you've got a purpose, and I've got an 8-month-old Great Dane, taking her for a walk is purpose. Mm-hmm. So you don't even need to, it doesn't even need to have huge implications for your community or the world, but knowing that there's a purpose for getting up, there's a purpose for you being on this earth, there's a purpose for achieving even something small, that has value. Without purpose, I think, particularly when you're in pain, you become introverted and withdrawn, and then you're losing the opportunity to actually enjoy every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for bringing those wise words to us and challenging us to focus our attention on something else. And that in itself will help to bring about the sense of joy and well-being. It's more about that emotional well-being that I think everyone and we have a question from Miranda asking, do you ever allow yourself a total day off? And we're talking staying in your PJs all day.
I don't stay in my PJs, Miranda, but I do sometimes take days off, particularly after I've done a weekend of scuba diving where I know that I've really physically pushed myself, because we're very good at pushing ourselves as AS warriors, but it will come to bite you in time. So if I work really hard on a weekend, I take a Monday off. And I don't use my phone, and I don't get onto the computer, and I lounge around. And I think for me, it's learning that that's also okay. That in itself has purpose.
Yep.
Yeah, and particularly on really, really bad pain days. So maybe you don't walk around the block. Maybe you don't go to the park. Maybe you walk down to the bottom of your garden or to your bottom of your complex, or just, allowing yourself to actually have a really chilled. And I love those days. I'm learning to know the difference between good guilt and bad guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your days off become really valuable. I don't have to feel guilty because I'm just so cool sitting around.
Yes, and I love that. It's allowing yourself the permission to take a day. And with the idea that self-care is so important, and it's okay, it's valued, it's part of your journey, and just that acceptance of giving yourself something like that is really valuable. Thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's so valuable for everyone to hear.
Yeah, I think every single one of us needs to have some pampering, and we should probably do it on a more regular basis than we allow ourselves to do. Somehow especially our Western worldview says we've got to be busy the whole time, and I must be achieving things the whole time, or I must be moving forward. So, but what does that mean? What does achievement mean? What does movement forward mean? And maybe sometimes it actually means taking a chill day and allowing myself to actually work out where I am in this whole journey. And that I actually am allowed sometimes to feel sorry for myself, as long as it isn't too extreme. That's my personal opinion, because I'm scared that if I allow myself to wallow, will I get out of that hole? So yes, wallowing has got its place, but time is short. So you don't want to spend too much time in that wallow. Rather, go into that mud bath like a rhino, or and wallow in that rather. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I thank you for bringing that up. It's just I think it again is about self-compassion and meeting yourself where you're at, and it's okay. That sense of you will always be there for yourself, and being able to position yourself in a way that, what is it that I need right now? What is it that I need today? And listen to that and act on it is really valuable.
And it's not selfish.
Nope.
At the moment, I'm torn between teaching scuba, because that is my passion, and it's important as AS warriors to have a passion and to follow it as best as you can. But then also I'm moving into areas where I'm with people, I'm in a group. As an AS warrior, do I really want to be there? How do I balance that? And with that balance comes, I don't need to feel guilty that I'm not achieving because I'm not there. For me, that's where I want to be. But right now, because of COVID, I have to think twice before I do something. If we're meeting outdoors, brilliant. If we're meeting indoors, maybe I have to be wise. And that's something that I'm sort of struggling with at the moment, knowing when to and when not to.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty with COVID in the air, unfortunately. And I'm mindful of our time, Annie. We've zoomed through that half hour, and I wonder if there's any one thing that you'd like to say to your fellow AS warriors. Maybe it's a something that you'd like them to do, for example, a challenge to them that you think could be really valuable on the journey that they're on.
Thanks, Lauren. I know that I'm a bit maybe airy-fairy, but I think maybe discovering your worth, that's a challenge. Discovering that you're not old or young or sick or healthy or in pain or not in pain. To challenge yourself to find your worth, because every single one of us is extremely worthy. I can't believe that it's gone so fast.
Yeah, it has gone really fast. And now I just want to be like, I just want to ask, but how do we find our worth? What do we do? What kind of path could someone take if they do want to take one small step to finding their worth? What does that practically look like?
So to be able to look at who you are as an individual and realize that my worth is not what I do.
Mm-hmm.
My worth is not what job I have. My worth is not what house I live in or what car I drive. It's who I am as an individual. What are my morals? What are my values? What is my worldview? How do I make a difference in my life, my family's life, and my community's life? My sphere of influence. Worth comes from non-material stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to come and we'll counsel together. Takes
Yeah,
a while to work out.
yeah. The thoughts that are popping to my mind is really finding what energizes you and excites you. So those strengths that you may
Yes.
have, and aligning yourself with the values that are really important to you. And
Yes.
we know that when
And
you live
just
in your values, then
yes. And Lauren, I actually wanted to say that, and I'm glad you brought that up. Follow your passion, even if that following is not as 100% as it was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. To follow that passion, to never give that away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful, Annie. Thank you so much for diving in deep with us. We explored the different areas of AS and also the really valuable things that have come to you over the course of these 30 years living with AS. I really get the impression that having a hobby that you absolutely love has been key for you, and
Yes.
also being able to express your purpose and your passion of helping others or giving to others has also been a game changer for you. And that last bit of really finding out who you are as an individual and living in line with your values, your strengths, and your passions is something that I'm so curious if our AS warriors are going to find some exciting things about themselves and see how it unfolds for them.
Yes, I really hope that they are challenged by who are you? What makes you valuable? What makes you worthy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you so much for having us. And there will be thank you to also all of our listeners. If you're listening in live or listening after the session, the recording will be up for you all to watch. If there are any questions, just post them on the Facebook group, and I'm sure Annie will be around. I'll definitely be around. And we'll see you all then as we're kicking off for our next Facebook Live. I think it's in 2 weeks' time. And yeah, I hope you all have a lovely rest of your evening. And thank you again, a big thank you to Annie. It was lovely to have you here.
You're welcome. It was wonderful to be here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.